Yo, 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 what up, fam? Welcome to 904. Come on in, Asuzador.
Hey, hoo-ha.
Bow, bow. Get the party started. Make sure you drop some likes and some comentarios. Don't be a prude. Funky. Get them fat beats though. Fitness scene bullshit.
The sun is shining, the birds are chirping, the bacon is sizzling. Welcome to the Daily Swole.
Testing, 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 test, test, test. Testing, 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 test, 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 testing, testicles, testing, testicles, testicles. Welcome everyone to episode 904 of the Daily Mother Swole, the most muscular swolecast, beardcast, broadcast, gaincast, mancast, pimpcast, sleazecast, slaycast, taintcast in the realm. Because when I flex, you flex, we all flex our biceps, and I'm glad you liking those fat beats beaches. What is going on, fam? Welcome to episode 904. 904. I feel like I need to do like the wrist flip and foie. Foie gras, foie, and foie. 904. Welcome to the live cast. Thank you for joining me live on Facebook and Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, and Periscope. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Saturday Swole Slamcast. I'm going to make sure that you're training today. Daddy wants to make sure that you're getting your pump on today. You're doing something. I understand that some of you don't train on a weekend. Okay, but you should be training. You just don't have to be lifting weights. So most of you know that already. Most of you know that the weekend is no time for off days. There are no off days. There's just different types of training days. You just don't have to lift every day. So don't be a fucking jabroni and skip on the weekends. Make sure you do what you need to do when you need to do it. We're going to talk about doing legs twice a week and, what you can do in terms of strategizing how you're going to train your legs. If you're going to do specifically legs, not total body, not a different type of split, you're going to do legs twice a week, how you go about your leg training, because you could do a bunch of different things. And I've mentioned on many instances that it depends on your goal, it depends on your experience, it depends on the frequency of your training, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish, what you have available if you're at home, if you're at a gym. Obviously, different machines that you don't have available at home won't be in the cards. Different exercises, if you have pre-existing conditions, won't be done because you're not training to hurt yourself. You're training to protect yourself. You're training to get stronger and better and so forth. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So to get us started, while I do the intro, if you are doing legs twice a week, put it in the comments right now. And if you aren't, it doesn't matter. What are you training today? What are you doing today? What did you do today? So even if you didn't do legs, share in the comments right now what you did today or what you are planning on doing and what you do for legs. Do you train legs once a week? Do you train legs twice a week? Are you one of those fucking psychopaths that go legs thrice a week, which might lead to maybe doing too much or not doing enough? Because the more you train your fucking body, the less volume you're going to do and the less intensity in each workout, because that's how it fucking works. Want to make sure that you're not overdoing it. So in my opinion, I don't think you should be doing legs more than really twice a week if you're crushing it. If you're really, really, really crushing it, if you're really crushing it, really crushing it, you probably don't have the ability to do it 3 times a week unless you're doing something else, which I'm going to explain, unless you're going to be doing breaking up some of the body parts, focusing on certain areas. So we're going to get into that. I want to begin the show by thanking our sponsor today, and that is Coda Bowers. So thank you so much yesterday for sponsoring the Daily Swole, sponsoring this episode. Appreciate it, my friend. Thank you very much for your enduring support and for tuning in all the time. I mucho appreciate it. And if you didn't catch yesterday's episode, I have been getting a lot of messages about donations and sponsoring the show, and I decided to add some incentives and some bonuses that you can check out. Go to swolenormousx.com and click on podcast, and you'll see a link if you want to find out more about sponsoring the Daily Swole. So I appreciate all of you for being here. I appreciate all of you for listening, for watching, and for those of you that are sponsoring the show. So thank you again to Coda Bowers. Appreciate it. My friend, thank you for supporting the gains. Now, today's episode is going to be extra swole just because of you. That's right. So let's talk about legs twice per week. And I'm seeing in the comments right now, did arms and core, shadow boxing, and foam rolling. You guys do some weird shit. What do you guys do? Shadow boxing? Come on. You're boxing your shadow or your Peter Pan? I'm just kidding. Still holding it down. Legs twice a week. I did shoulders and fucking glutes. You're fucking some glutes? I did shoulders and fucking glutes. What if we started doing our programming and that's how we listed on the schedule? What's today? Fucking glutes. What's tomorrow? Goddamn arms. What's on Monday? The chest, bitches. Maybe that's what my new programming should be like. Maybe I should be wording it like that. Completely unfiltered programming. Completely unfiltered programming. Shadow boxing. Peter Pan. Shadow boxing. Okay. Why don't you just do Zumba instead? I'm fucking with you, dork. Well, come on. I had to reference Peter Pan. I always try to get a Peter Pan reference in. That's not true, but we'll pretend it is. Chest cardio done, legs once a week. Cool. I'm just busting with you, Cindy. Eric, only hit legs once a week directly, but they get hit again on back days with deadlifts. So you do deadlifts on back day. Let's see. I did chest and shoulders today. Jennifer, before I hurt my knee, I did legs twice a week. Okay. So we talked about this, not this whole week, but the other day we discussed volume and frequency and what you should be approaching your training with in your programming. If you're going to train more frequently, you need to adjust the volume. Most people start to get hurt or overtrain because they read somewhere or they think I need to train legs more often. More is better, right? If I train legs twice a week, if I train chest twice a week, if I do this 3 times a week, if I train it more often, I'm going to get more gains. Not the truth, because if you are in the gym, you're breaking down the muscle. So you have to find that balance. And on the other episode, when I discussed training volume and frequency, there really is no right answer, but there are different options, right? There are different options for you. You don't necessarily have to do a split, and you don't necessarily have to do a full body workout. But this teaches you a lesson. It teaches you a lesson about how to adjust your programming. When you increase the frequency, in other words, when you increase the instances of training a specific body part, for example, chest, legs, doesn't matter what it is, how many times a week are you training that? So if we're assuming a 7-day period, how frequently is that body part getting hit? Because you can imagine if you're hitting it every day, you're not giving enough chance to recover, or you're not hitting it hard enough, and you could easily overtrain or just not make a lot of progress and really flatline and plateau pretty quickly. If you are increasing your volume, you're doing a lot of volume, meaning you're doing a lot of sets and reps in a given workout, you all know how sore you'll get. You'll know how sore you'll get. You know that you can't do that more than really once a week, maybe twice, depending on how you split it up. When I say a high volume workout, I am doing a ton of sets. I am doing a ton, and I'm not going to be able to walk very well, so chances of me doing it more than once a week is very unlikely. And I'm not a huge fan of splitting up quads and hamstrings. I hate that. I don't like that at all, because when you're never ever isolating just your quads. Never. When you're crossing the hip joint, when you're using muscles that cross the hip joint, they're very, very integrated. So I'm going to explain how I like to picture leg day and how you can split up if you do it twice a week. I'm not a big fan of the hamstring and quad split. Most people get way too much activity and too much overload on those areas without even intending for just repetitive movement patterns. By sitting down, by keeping your hips flexed with your knees in flexion, you're shortening your hamstrings. Hamstrings get very, very tight. Hip flexors, rectus femoris get very, very tight. And you need to create that balance, which is why we talk about yoga so much. So in terms of legs twice a week, you can do 2 different things. Mostly, okay? I'm not really going to go into every option because we're going to have that discussion. There's nothing wrong with however you want to split it up. If you find like it works the best, okay. But here's how I like to approach my leg training. Depending on how I feel week to week, if you're doing legs, you could either do one of two things. I think every workout should either focus on, and when it comes to legs, okay, every single leg workout should do one of two things, if not both. It should be squat focused and or glute focused. So forget the hamstrings. You could focus on posterior chain. You'll get the hamstrings involved, and I'll explain why. If you're doing legs twice a week, you could do the same workout and you could do squats twice per week. You can do your lunges twice a week, right? Depending on your volume and what your ability is, what your goals are, what your experience, what your existing conditions, if you have knee issues, if you have hip issues or ankle issues, right? That all gets very, very individualized for you. I don't have any problem with doing squats twice a week. I think squats are the most important exercise, if not like one of, if not the, because when we get up, literally a squat is standing up from a chair. We're sitting down, we have to stand up. Getting out of a car, getting off the toilet. I challenge you to give me an exercise or a movement that's more important than a squat. It's very subjective, but come on. If you can't stand up, you're not going to be able to, you can't walk if you can't stand up. You can't walk if you can't, I mean, you have to get there first. You have to get vertical. When you're on the ground, you have to squat, lunge, right? You put one knee on the ground when you're getting up off the ground. So as you get older, it's going to be harder for you to get up. It's going to be harder for you to get up out of a chair. You need to be able to squat. You need to be able to stand up so you can get into a car, get out of a car, so you can stand up and so you can walk. So squatting is very, very important. What's also important is focusing on the glutes. The glutes usually get shut down, and we've talked about posture many times, and we're going to come back around to glute activation again in the topics coming up. So if you haven't heard those episodes, definitely go back in the previous episodes and review some of those content, some of that content about the glutes, because that is the foundation for your leg training. And the glutes usually get neurally shut down. The brain forgets about the glutes because you're sitting down on them. You're sitting down on them. That pressure from sitting down on your glutes is similar to having a massage. It's constant pressure. It inhibits the neural activity to the glutes. That's why you see people that sit down all the time. You ever see flat ass? Have you ever seen flat ass? You see these people that are accountants that sit down all the time. They have some serious flat booty. Serious, deathly flat booty. So flat the fucking walls are jealous. It's not good. So flat butt is a horrible, I almost feel like that's like heart disease. That's a disease. I feel like no ass at all is a disease that should be addressed severely. Just like cancer, just like heart disease, just like diabetes, we got to be addressing flat ass syndrome. No joke. A flat ass is one of the most horrific things you could ever see. It's gross. It looks bad. And that's because on an evolutionary level, we look at a fucking flat ass and we think that person's not healthy. That person's not strong. That person's not powerful. I'm not an evolutionary biologist, but you know that the booty a lot of times has been said to be attracted. We are attracted by the butt because it looks like breasts, and everyone's attracted to breasts because we're all breastfeed. So on a very fundamental level, we look at a booty and we say, oh shit, that's like titties, in our brain, our evolutionary brain. And also it's for thrusting. You can't fuck without a thrust. I mean, I guess you can if the guy's on the bottom, but if you need a booty, it's strength. It allows you to track through with your gait when you're walking. There are a lot of benefits to the butt and to have a strong glute, not a big butt. I'm talking about a strong butt. A lot of people have a big ass, but they're just covered with fat and they have too much of a lower back arch. So if you have a big butt, and you got a lot of fat on top of it, you got a big lower back arch, then you're going to look like you have a big ass, but it doesn't mean that it's activated. It doesn't mean that you have everything in alignment. It doesn't mean you have good static and dynamic posture. It could still mean a whole host of issues. So when you are doing legs twice a week, you have your choices. You could do squats and you could do the same workout twice in a week. You can hit squats twice. That's fine. If you adjust the volume, you have your frequency, you're doing legs twice a week, you can adjust the volume and still hit your squats. I also like to do maybe one workout where you're doing your squats, you're doing your heavy compound movements like that. And the second leg workout includes a lot of stabilization, a lot of activation. So for example, this past week, I did a workout. Well, actually yesterday I did legs and I did crush it again. I did heavy squats. I went up to like some heavy singles for front squats. But the first workout in the week, I did squats and I did more stiff leg deadlifts, or not stiff leg, Romanian deadlifts. I did front squats. I did lunges. I did those compound movements, right? And then yesterday, I did some squats too, but I focused a lot on stabilization movements. I focused a lot on hip activation and the posterior chain weighted hip bridges. So I went really, really heavy with hip thrusts and did single leg squats and single leg Romanian deadlifts. And I focused on the stabilization, but a lot more glute focused and glute centric with a whole mobility twist. And that's a great workout that I did yesterday. And that's another workout that will be uploaded into Swolenormous X, into the workout archive. So those of you that are members, you'll get to see that real soon. I love doing legs twice a week. I really do. I just don't pressure myself to do it heavy and the same way I did it the first time. So if I did legs on a Tuesday, I don't pressure myself to train them the same way on Friday or on a Saturday. I allow myself the ability to focus more on the glutes. I think no matter what, you should be doing a squat and or glute activation and heavy glutes, stabilization for glutes, something that's focused on hip activation, gluteus medius, gluteus maximus, with the range of motion, with the stabilization component, and also with that kind of force production, for example, with heavy hip bridges. And everyone can do glute activation. You could do it at home with your single leg squats, single leg balance reach, single leg RDL. You can do it with minimal weight. You just have to adjust the pacing of your repetition. You have to adjust maybe how you execute it depending on how much weights you have, or whatever situation you personally have with your access to equipment. But a lot of these exercises can be done, and the activation exercises don't require weight. You're not going to get as much size, but you can certainly activate the glutes and train them properly twice or even 3 times a week. You can do 2 times in the gym and 1 time at home with just body weight exercises for activation. So this is like a whole system you have to create. You have to make sure that you are focusing your training around the things that will tend to fall behind. And that's how I look at my training. So whenever I'm doing my scheduling, my programming, and anything that I do create, there is always going to be a bias towards things that are chronically forgotten. And that's what you have to make sure you're focusing on. The things that are commonly forgotten, the things that people usually leave behind, like the glutes. You don't need to be crushing quads because people have way too much of a quad dominant structure already because of how we're sitting down all the time, because of how most people squat and how most people produce that tension internally because of imbalances in the hip. Most people, when they do squats, they feel it more in their quads because their glutes aren't firing. Most people aren't firing their glutes because of improper posture, because there's improper joint balance. The muscles aren't balanced around those joints. The glutes aren't neurally firing. So even people that do squats aren't really hitting the glutes. They're not hitting the butt. And a lot of times what happens in terms of a compensation, the body starts arching the lower back more during the exercise, and it gives you this illusion that your butt's getting bigger. It gives you this illusion that you're performing the exercise properly when in fact you're tightening up the muscles in the lower back. You are compensating with too much quad activation and hamstring takeover, and you're losing the glutes. What I like about glute activation is you're going to hit your hamstrings. You're going to hit the posterior chain. You're going to hit the hamstrings too. But the difference is when you're doing glute activation, you are teaching the body that the glutes are the primary muscle that should be firing for hip extension. When you focus on the glutes, the hamstrings will work, but they will work in the capacity that they're supposed to work. They're not going to do too much. And way too often, we get too much hamstring activation because the glutes are not firing properly. So when we start biasing our training towards glute activation, towards glute-centric training, the hamstrings kind of learn their place. All right, hamstrings, we love you. We love some good ham hocks on the back, but you got to take a second tier. You got to take a seat, and you're on deck. You're on deck for hip extension. The glutes are the king of the jungle. The glutes have to do their job. Hamstrings, you're second rate, so to speak. Okay? Way too many of you are doing your leg training, and when you do your lunges and you do your squats, you feel it more the next day in your quads and your hamstrings. You don't feel it in your glutes, and that's why. So if that is you, drop in the comments below. Let's have a little discussion. That's what I wanted to say for Saturday. That's what I wanted to drop down here. And most people, when they're doing legs twice per week, they might just be doing squats twice a week. Nothing wrong with that, like I mentioned. Lunges twice a week. Nothing wrong with it, like I mentioned. However, they're doing it in a manner that's not still activating their glutes because they're not focusing their training on activating the glutes. So they're still losing in the long run, and it's going to cost them. Legs twice a week probably also depends on your skill level. This is from Eric. You get a lot more soreness when you first start doing squats and later on. Well, anything feels that way. You're always going to feel sore when you first start doing something different. It's called the alarm reaction. So you can say that about anything, really, to be honest. I mean, of course, if you stop doing legs, yeah, you'll get sore getting back into it, but you could still do legs twice a week, no problem. But of course, as you get used to it and as you build your body up, your volume, like if I do legs twice a week, my volume is going to be a lot more than someone who's just beginning and starting training legs twice a week. They might barely do anything, 3 sets, and they're going to be fucking done. I might do 15 or 20 sets and I can crush it twice a week, but that's relative to my experience and my capacity. Colton Cook on Facebook. I can definitely feel the difference when I try to squat without doing my glute activation exercises first. It's crazy. It's crazy, but it's literally what I just said. It just makes sense. And once you relate that, and once you actually put it into practice, Colton, like you have, you see the importance of it. It's one thing for me to say it. It's one thing for you to say, oh, that's what he means. You'll feel completely different. You'll feel a lot stronger too. You'll feel a lot stronger when you do glute activation first. Baby G Oficial. I remember you mentioned calisthenics a few times in your videos. I don't recall ever mentioning calisthenics. Like, I don't know what you mean. However, you never specifically talked about progressive bodyweight strength training by using harder variations. What are your thoughts? My thoughts are it's bodyweight training. You're not going to build endless amounts of muscle. You can make it more challenging. A bodyweight exercise is very similar to a strength exercise with weights, is that you will make it more challenging by doing, let's say, a single leg versus 2 leg, or 1 arm push-up versus a 2 arm push-up, or you do slower negatives and more time under tension. But you're not going to build endless amounts of muscle like you will doing more like focused training with resistance weights. And that's why people that want to get big don't just do bodyweight exercise, but they have their place. I mean, I like weighted pull-ups. I like weighted dips. I like things like that. You could do chest and certain bodyweight exercises, but if you're jumping around and doing all this bar training, I mean, you might get leaner, you'll build some muscle, but you can also overload joints very, very easily. People have constant shoulder and elbow problems. You don't see that on Instagram because they always post pictures of them doing a flag. And most people that do calisthenics all the time fucking never do legs. That's why these guys on Instagram always wear fucking pants, because they never train their damn legs. So there's nothing wrong with bodyweight exercises, but I mean, how big are your legs going to get by only doing bodyweight squats, air squats, whatever you call it, walking lunges with no weight? I mean, you can go slower with your lunge, but there comes a point where you need to add external resistance. You need to add more force. You need to create more internal tension. And a weighted vest will only get you so much extra. And it doesn't mean that you can't build muscle, but it depends on what you're trying to do. It depends on what you're trying to do. And a lot of people are trying to put on tons of muscle and then watch all these people doing circus tricks online and think that's what's going to get them big and lean. And a lot of these guys are like 150, 160 pounds. They're very, very tiny. They don't train legs. They don't have a lot of muscle mass, but they're strong relative to their body weight. So they can do all these cool things. But, you know, the way someone looks, you can look very lean and look bigger by being defined, but it doesn't mean you have a lot of muscle mass. Yeah, and there's absolutely nothing wrong. Like, I mean, get the fuck out of here. There's nothing wrong with doing calisthenics. A pull-up, so functional. A push-up, very functional. A squat, I mean, the only difference is a squat with no weight is, it's the same thing. You're just doing less weight than if you put a bar on your back. But it depends also on what your, like I said, what your goal is, what equipment you have available. Not everyone has access to a gym. Not everyone has a lot of stuff at home. So there's nothing wrong with calisthenics whatsoever. However, you need to look at what you want to accomplish. And there's a reason why bodybuilders and people that are trying to get really big, they don't do a lot of body weight calisthenic exercises, because it only serves a purpose it's not the type of training that's going to give you that kind of like massive adaptation, like get really, really big. But weighted pull-ups, nasty. Weighted dips, nasty. Like, what are you going to do for push-ups? Stack plates on your back? I hate that shit. I think it's stupid. I think it's a stupid thing to do. You can't really, when you're putting pressure on your back, when you're loading the plates on, it affects the ability of your scapula to rotate and to move. And it's hard to do. You need other people. It's just fucking weird. It's just not really It's cool. It's a cool little stunt. You can put a sandbag on your back, but again, it's only that much extra weight. So then you have to do the push-up slower and you'll get a burn. You'll build muscle. You'll fatigue the muscle, but you're going to hit that plateau. You're going to hit that ceiling with overall mass. So it depends on if you're trying to build a lot of muscle or you're looking for more endurance, maybe just to lose weight. You know, there's always plateaus with every kind of training. There's always plateaus. You're always going to hit a wall eventually until you progress your training. So with weights, you're adding more weight. You're tweaking some of the variables with calisthenics. You're doing less, like, you know, maybe one leg rather than two, one arm instead of two. You're adding some, you know, a vest or some plates and stuff. And, you know, eventually it's going to hit that point where you kind of max out. And, you know, with calisthenics, there's only so many different complementary joint angles you can get that you can do without using resistance weights or cables or bands or dumbbells. And people oftentimes get overuse injuries from doing so many pull-ups or so many push-ups. You get shoulder problems, you get elbow problems, you get like elbow tendonitis. So you have to make sure that you're balancing all that stuff out. Colorado Freeze. Squats on Monday, deadlifts on Friday. Started implementing glute activation. We'll update you on progress in a few weeks. I can't wait. I'm not going to sleep until I get that update. I am not going to be able to sleep well at night until I get your update on how that goes for you. I'm going to have a lot of restless nights, Colorado. I ain't going to be able to fall asleep until I hear back from you. I don't know what I will do. I have no idea. How will I live? How will I go on? All right, good questions. So when it comes to strength training and bodybuilding, there's a lot of variability. You can customize a lot of things. There aren't always a right answer and a wrong answer. Depends on what you want, depends on how you respond, depends on your experience, depends on what you have available. And there's a lot of variables with sleep, with nutrition, with how hard you train. I could give 100 people the same workout, and some people are going to push themselves really hard, and some people just don't know how to push themselves hard enough. That's why I don't like that 80-20% rule bullshit where it's like 80% nutrition, 20% training. If you train as hard as I do and as hard as a lot of people I know do, it ain't 20%, yo. Training is a huge variable. How much effort you put in the gym is a massive variable. Most people don't know how to push themselves to that limit and beyond to stimulate the type of response that builds muscle long term. And that gets very, very overlooked, and nutrition gets way too much attention, but it also doesn't. I mean, nutrition's everything, but so is training. I just don't like how people take or knock training down on the totem pole as if nutrition's, I mean, you know me, nutrition's fucking supremely important, but not at the expense of training's not important. Of course it is. Of course it is. Just because you're eating the right food doesn't mean you're going to look like you fucking lift. Give me a break. You could give me a couple people. There are a lot of people that go to the gym, and there aren't a lot of people that look good that go to the gym. So why are some people getting results? Is it just genetics? Fuck no. It's the hard work people put in. Most of the people I see at the gym look the same all the time. Why? Well, they're probably not doing a lot of things correctly, but they're also not training hard. When you're texting all the time and you're talking all the time and you're standing around watching TV and you're sitting on a fucking exercise bike, those pieces of shit, and you walk on the treadmill all the time, give me a break. Of course, you're not training hard. You're not doing it. You're not doing it. I see what you do for your sets. You don't train hard. You don't fucking train hard. Give me a break. As you say, most people don't train hard enough. Yes, it takes so much out of you. It's the mind. That's why I push mental approach so much, because you need to take off the governor and realize how hard and push your body past that point of failure. Your body doesn't want to go to failure and beyond. Your body doesn't want to. It's trying to protect itself. You're like psychologically pushing your body past that breaking point. That's not easy to do. It's not easy to push your body into that point where it's like scared. Oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen. You got to push. Any tips on building mass at the calves? Yeah. Frequency and volume. I crush my calves. Every time I go to the gym, I hit calves. I do full range of motion all the way up to my tippy toes. I'm releasing a calf program for Swolenormous X peeps. I have so much fucking stuff to do. I have so much stuff to do. Oh my God. I love it. I love it. It never ends. It never ends. So much stuff to do. Always looking for Always looking to deliver new shit. But the calves, full range of motion. I do tons of volume. I train them almost every time I go to the gym. I hit calves. I do donkey calf raise. I do single leg. I do seated calf raise. I do seated body weight calf, seated calf raises hanging off a bar all the way up into my tippy toes. Full, complete plantar flexion. Nasty. I've seen a ton of change recently because I've just been fucking crushing them. But it takes time. That's a stubborn area. Super stubborn area. Robin Cree, exactly. You have to put the work in for sure. You want abs, eat right. I have a bit of fluff all over all sexy because I love pizza and nachos. Well, if you love the fluff, then keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. If you're drinking alcohol, you're drinking beer, and you're eating pizza and nachos and stuff, you have to be realistic with what you're going to get from that. That's where people diverge. I don't care if you want to eat pizza. I'll rage on you if you say you want to eat pizza, but then you still want results and you complain about it. I don't care if you eat pizza. That's fine. That's your life. I don't care if you want to eat pizza. But if you're not getting the results that you want, then you're going to have to start sacrificing things that are potentially getting in your way. And that's a big one. And most people don't want to get rid of shit like that. Well, tough shit. Eat your pizza and be fat or fluffy, whatever you want to call it, or don't. And do whatever it takes. So if you really want it, you'll do whatever it takes. If you don't really want it, then you won't do whatever it takes. And that's on you. That's a decision that you have to make, right? I got tickets to the gun show, but I need to clean it up. Gotta clean it up. I hear you. I know. Things taste good, but you get addicted to them. I haven't had pizza in so long. 0 cravings. 0 fucking cravings. None. When you cut out the junk long enough, you just don't care anymore. Especially when you're eating the foods that are giving your body the right fuel, you don't have cravings. I don't get fucking cravings. Sometimes I almost try to force myself to have a craving. I'm like, hey, you want a beer, don't you? I'm like, not really. Not really. I don't know. Sometimes I try to like give myself a craving. And then I just don't want it. So you learn. Your body adapts to the new you. And when your body feels good and you feel good with what you're eating, you just don't have the same kind of desire to destroy things, right? To knock down that building, to sabotage yourself. It really depends on what makes you happy. If you're doing everything and you're okay with the fact that these foods could be rotting you from the inside out, if you look the way you want to, you feel good and you want to eat those things, look, all right, you can get away with it for whatever genetic, metabolic, whatever reason, you can do that. Fine, up to you. It might catch up with you in the long run. Maybe there's something festering in there, and that type of ingestion of processed foods could cause you disease in the future. I mean, we don't know, right? It's not going to be like, oh, you have pizza cancer. It's not that specific. I got the pizza cancer. It was bad. All that pepperoni all those years, the pizza cancer. We don't have stats like that. There's nothing that points to things that directly. So you can't say one thing or another. Do I meal prep? Not really. I'm home a lot, or I have access. I usually do. I guess I do meal prep. I cook a bunch of food. If I cook a steak, it usually lasts me a day or two. I mean, if I cook ground beef, I'll cook 12, 15 patties or meatballs or something. It'll last a day or 2 or 3. So that depends on your schedule. Doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter what I do at all. If you have time to cook, you can cook. It's up to you. Some people like to do it once a week. I don't like cooking for a week in advance. Because then food tends to get fucking gross. I'd rather cook every 2 or 3 days. I don't know about people that do it for the entire week, because then that food towards the end of the week is pretty like solid and dried out in the fridge in many cases. But that depends on your work schedule and what you're cooking and things like that. Some things stay better longer than others. Yeah. Good shit, fam. Well, again, thank you so much to those of you that are sponsoring the show. Today's episode brought to you by Coda Bowers. Again, thank you for the sponsor, Coda. Appreciate it. If you're interested in sponsoring the show, you can check out the incentives over on swolenormousx.com. Click on podcast if you're interested in supporting the show. Also, swolenormousx, click on podcast. You'll see all the app lists where you can subscribe to the podcast and listen on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, everywhere you like to get your audio gains. Papa Swolio's everywhere. Dry ass chicken. I know. And of course, we'll be here tomorrow again for episode 905. Drop your comments, drop your messages, hit me up in the DM. Make sure you check out the latest post on Instagram and Facebook. It'll get in your face. And go train today. Go fucking train today. Got a lot of big updates. A lot of big updates coming that I'm happy to announce. That I'm excited, especially for Swolenormous X members. So the private community, got some new things I'm working on for content on all platforms, and good things coming. Good things coming. We're going to end this year strong, and I encourage all of you to stop taking fucking days off. Listen to these episodes. Use the Daily Swole as your fuel for the fire to make sure you stay on point. And remember, you can check out all my other content, swolenormousx.com. I will see everyone tomorrow for episode 905 of the Most Muscular Swolecast, Beardcast Broadcast, Gamecast, Mancast, Pimpcast, and Sleazecast in the realm. Because when I flex, you flex, we all flex our biceps. Thanks for joining me. See you tomorrow. Peace, McGee's fam. Deuce Magoose, Papa Swolio. Out.